Hello, I'm Kelly O'Byrne and welcome to LCG's preview for the week ahead. I'll be talking to our head of research, Jasper Lawler, to discuss Catalonia and the plunge in Spain's IBEX index, the next leader of the Federal Reserve, Theresa May's calamitous party conference speech, a record high for the German DAX, and signs of life in gold. But first, corporate results this week. There's nothing of note on Monday, but then Ted Baker reports on Tuesday, BlackRock on Wednesday, Sky, JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup on Thursday. Then we finish off the week with Bank of America and Wells Fargo on Friday. Moving on to the economic calendar, we've picked out what we think could be the most market-moving releases. On Monday we have China Services PMI. On Tuesday it's UK industrial production and UK trade balance. On Wednesday, Spanish inflation and FOMC minutes. On Thursday, Bank of England credit conditions, and on Friday we have China trade data, US retail sales, as well as US inflation. So Jasper, is Monday the day of reckoning for Catalonia, do you think?
It could well be, Kelly. So the reason it might be is that the regional president of Catalonia has said that the parliament is going to meet and decide what to do about the referendum result. And they're still collecting a few ballots, but it was 90% vote for independence. So you'd imagine it's going to be the same result. So then it's just a matter of what they do about it. For me, there's probably three simple scenarios here. One would be that they acknowledge the vote, but they decide that the best course of action is just some dialogue with Madrid, trying to maybe work out, a better deal for the state rather than going for independence. Mm-hmm. That's number one, probably the best for markets. Number two is they just outright say and declare independence. That's probably a bit of a disaster scenario for markets. Number three, equally not so good, it's if the police just prevent the whole thing from happening. So that there has been talk of that actually they'll just come in and stop the meeting even taking place. So again, that's not really a good sign of kind of political cohesion within Spain were that to happen. The IBEX was really at the eye of the storm last week. We saw the biggest drop in 15 months in the IBEX. It dropped below the 10,000 level. That could be a sort of dip buying level for some. We saw some signs of that. But again, if this referendum gets called to be legit from the Catalonian officials, it doesn't mean that they're going to be independent, but it's definitely a political problem for Spain. And I think markets would probably react to that. And what we might actually see on that occasion is actually other European assets moving alongside Spanish assets, which we didn't really see last week.
Mm-hmm. And also last week we saw speculation about who will be the next Fed chair pick up. What do you think about the dollar with that?
Well, I think the crux of it is that will the next Fed chair be dovish or hawkish, right? So we're on the midst of beginning quantitative tightening. The Fed has raised interest rates 2 times, probably going to end up even 3 times this year. A lot of people are expecting 3 times next year. So obviously, if a much more hawkish Fed governor comes in, a Fed chair, then you'd expect that to happen at a much quicker pace. Equally, if it's a more dovish member, then actually maybe rate hikes are off the table, maybe shrinking the balance sheet happens a lot slower. There are a few candidates here for this. So Yellen herself obviously may just continue. Kevin Warsh is a former governor. Jerome Powell is a current governor. They're both sort of middle of the range, I would say, doves. And then Gary Cohn, who is obviously the former head of Goldman Sachs, he may step out of his role where he's currently serving for Trump in his Economic Council. He may step into the role. Or what I thought was more interesting was Jeff Gundlach, the supposed bond king. He said it could be Neil Kashkari. He's the most dovish member of the Fed. So what's the logic there? Well, Donald Trump wants perhaps the most dovish member to come in to help budge growth towards his targets of making America great again, plus 3% growth, which is what he was talking about in his campaign.
Yeah, thanks. And we had Theresa May's speech on live last week there on the desk. Pretty awkward stuff. Do you think she has much of a future?
Well, I think the fact that you're asking it probably answers the question in itself, doesn't it? I've heard some people saying she's not even going to make it through the week. I've heard that she may not make it till Christmas. I think it certainly hasn't helped her causes. And clearly the political uncertainty didn't help the pound. We saw the pound drop last week after that speech. And so now when you're looking at trading cable, I think you've got on one side, you've got the fact that Bank of England seemed to be edging towards a rate hike. But now on the other side, you not only have the Brexit uncertainty, but you have the uncertainty around more intensified uncertainty, I would say, about Theresa May's leadership. I think she's probably going to end up being gone before the 2 years of Brexit negotiations, which is really what markets want for some stability, but I don't think they're probably going to get it.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned earlier a drop in Spanish stocks, but quite a different story in Germany with DAX.
Yes, so I think all I can really point to there within Germany is that we've been seeing record highs on Wall Street, obviously globally risk-on sentiment in the stock market, and we've got the German election in the rearview mirror. Obviously, it wasn't a great result for Merkel, but she's still made it through. And we've had some weakening of the euro as the dollar's strengthened. So it's just a culmination of factors that I didn't think really justified any kind of moves lower. And the market's basically been following the path of least resistance to the top side. As I mentioned, I think it could get unstuck if things in Spain really develop to the negative. But at the moment, it's we're looking at continued record highs in the DAX.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And quickly before we go, so we're recording this before the NFP data comes out. Just a quick word about gold.
Yep, so it dropped through the 1300 level. It's continued to decline. The market has looked weak, but it held up at the 1270 level, which was the August 15 low. So I think depending on the US economic data, which had been strong leading into the payrolls, and if we get any more information about this next Fed chair, that will probably be the short-term determination as to whether this 1270 holds.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Jasper. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to follow us on social media by clicking on the links below.